Arlecchino's release is right around the corner, and just a few days ago, out of nowhere, Genshin released this amazing 7-minute animated short dedicated to her past. Now if you're here and haven't watched it yet, what are you doing? Go watch it right now, it's really good. But if you have seen it, there were some small Easter eggs and lore drops that you might have missed, and we're gonna go through all of them right now. Hey guys, future me just dropping in. One of the things I was planning to do once I hit 1k subs was to open up a Discord server, but I decided why not just open it right now. So in the description below, there's a link to my Discord server, so please come hang out. Right now it's just me and a bunch of bots, so I need you guys here right now because we can't let these guys outnumber us. And if you are someone who might also be interested in moderating the server, I'm gonna start looking for a few of them very soon depending on how many people join. So make sure you're in the server to find out about when that happens. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Starting from the beginning, this should have been fairly obvious, but I saw some people miss that the House of the Hearth run by the previous knave, Clervie, was actually a battle royale. Only one of the children were meant to survive, so Clervie could make them the one true king. This is mentioned right at the start with that little cartoon animation.
But here in the House of the Hearth, you will grow up to be strong. Your goal is to learn, to compete, to defeat all your brothers and sisters in battle, and become king.
Now I'm pretty sure when she says defeat all your brothers and sisters, she doesn't mean to just knock them out. All these children are most likely dead. Now if any of you guys have watched or read Monster, this reminded me a lot of Kinderheim 511. Basically an unethical experiment done in an orphanage to create a leader. In this case it would have been Perere, or as we now know her, Arlecchino. It isn't really stated what Clervie meant by one true king, but in the 4.6 trailer, Arlecchino says to someone, which I think is Linny, that she wants them to become the next king of the house.
I want you to become the next king of the house, yet you seem to have different ideas.
I'm not saying I have all the answers, but doing so will only bring us further away from being a real family.
If Clervie's meaning of king is the same as Arlecchino, then I guess she accomplished that since Arlecchino is now the leader of the House of the Hearth. Now leading straight from this, Arlecchino's friend Clervie, who does appear to die near the end, most likely wasn't killed by Arlecchino. I say most likely because the scene where she is stabbed happens off screen, but we can assume this happened in one of two ways. The first, which I think is the least likely, is that Arlecchino did actually end up killing her. Now there's a lot of evidence that points against this. Firstly, they were friends. Pretty much every scene before this was pretty wholesome interactions between the two. Even one of them was Arlecchino tending to Clervie's wounds. At no point did Arlecchino show any form of disdain towards her, so I seriously doubt that she would end up killing her. When it does cut to the scene of Clervie dying, Arlecchino is clearly shocked at what's happening. Now it wouldn't really make sense if she was shocked at her friend dying if she was the one to kill her. It also doesn't make sense for Arlecchino to play into Clervie's plans to the point where she kills her only friend and then right after that attack and kill Clervie herself. Now there is clearly a time skip between Clervie's death to when Arlecchino attacks Clervie because we can see that her wounds are no longer there, but it's most likely not very long at all since Arlecchino clearly hasn't aged much in between the two scenes. The final and most damning piece of evidence is in this shot of Arlecchino's reflection after Clervie's body falls to the ground. If you look closely, you can see that she is still holding her sword in her hand. The sword that pierced Clervie's body was still inside her when she fell. So unless Arlecchino was dual wielding, which I doubt, she definitely was not the one who stabbed her. From this we can deduce the most likely thing that happened, which is that Clervie stabbed herself. Obviously the children at this point were aware of the nature of the House of the Hearth and that only one of them was going to be allowed to survive to become the king. Clervie most likely recognized this and then ended her own life so Arlecchino didn't have to be the one to do it. Now this most likely was the point that finally pushed Arlecchino over the edge to where she attacks and kills Clervie. Now obviously we can't be exactly sure what happened during Clervie's death. Maybe Clervie manipulated Arlecchino so much to the point where she was not in her right mind when she did actually stab Clervie and then she finally came to her senses afterwards. There's a lot of theorizing that can be done, but I think the most likely scenario from what we're shown is the one where Clervie unfortunately stabs herself. Now following on from that, if you tuned into the 4.6 live stream or have just seen this 4.6 preview art, you might notice that if you zoom in, you can actually see Clervie in her younger form with Linny, Lynette, and Fremine. Now this isn't some flashback art because Clervie should be a similar age to Arlecchino, which would make her much older than the other three, so there is obviously something very suspicious going on. It's either got to do with reincarnation, or maybe she's a spirit similar to Rue from the Surumi Island quest. In the trailer for 4.6, we also hear Fremine and Linny discussing hiding someone from Arlecchino.
Do you have any idea what you're doing? You're hiding the very person Father has been trying to find.
I really didn't mean to drag anyone else into this.
If Father finds out about this, everyone involved is going to be punished.
I wouldn't be surprised if this person was actually this reincarnation or spirit of Clervie, and that Arlecchino's 4.6 story quest will most likely be about her. Another thing you guys might have missed in the animated short is some info we received about Arlecchino's curse. Firstly, her curse is visually depicted as her hands becoming black, almost as if they've been burnt. And what Hoyo have shown us is that this curse is very unstable and can actually flare up at times. From what we see in the short, the curse appears to flare up when Arlecchino is very emotional. First with the death of her spider when she's a child, and then later when she's fighting Crucibena. From the final fight as well, we can kinda assume that the curse actually makes her stronger, and could even be the source of her innate pyro powers. After her curse flares up in the fight, she very clearly becomes very powerful and then easily defeats Crucibena. Although since this only occurs once, I'm unsure if there's actually a direct correlation. Now for those of you who have done the Fontaine World quest, Riddles Awaiting Answers, there's actually an NPC who has a very similar looking curse to Arlecchino. This NPC, whose name is Caterpillar, is actually a Hilichurl who was given sentience, and his curse is most likely related to that and his master Narcissencruz. Caterpillar's true form is actually shown in the quest to be an Anemo Hilichurl, so maybe Arlecchino's true form is that of a Pyro Hilichurl, but who knows. Now finally, a little Easter egg that you can actually find in the game. The building the final fight takes place in between Crucibena and Arlecchino is actually located right here on the map. It obviously is no longer a full building after Arlecchino basically blew it up, but you can see the ruins. And if you line yourself up properly, you can see the landscape in the background with the mountain on the left, and then the trees is pretty identical to the shot of this same area in the animated short. If you go in the building, or what's left of it, it does actually seem quite a lot smaller than what I was imagining from watching the short, but it's definitely the same place. And that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe, and in the comments below, let me know what Arlecchino teams you plan on playing her in if you are going to be pulling her next week. Until next time, thanks for watching.